welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. I feel the need to do this again because I did it yesterday on 30-minute reviews, and really it was, I put out the call first on Beware of Spoilers the first day, and that would be thank you to everyone who went out and bought Swan Song. We capped out in the top 50. I think we were number 46 on the bestseller list in superhero fantasy. And if you still want to get Swan Song, the first book of the trilogy, it is available for free until the end of the day tomorrow. It is through the end of the day Friday. You can get it for free. You don't need to read it. You can just add it to your library and then read it whenever you feel like. It's not like you need to do it right now. It's not like a library book where you're like, fuck, I gotta do this immediately. But no, you can get it, you can add it to your library, and you can read it at your leisure. And you can get it quick if you go to bit.ly/ATSWANSONG, and that will bring you directly to the book, and you can add it to your library. It is completely free to add to your library. You have to do literally nothing. It goes right to your Kindle library, and it is there forever. And it is totally and completely free. And then next week, Duet will be free. So if you read it and you like it, you can pick up Duet next week, and you can add the second book in the trilogy for free. And again, totally free. bit.ly/ATSWANSONG. And that will give you a free copy. So let's dive into today's topic, Hawkeye, which I don't think there's been a Marvel show, or really any show, besides, like, I'm getting the Flash Season 5 vibes, but arguably better than, well, not arguably better, like, the Flash Season 5 has a profound issue when it comes to the fact that Cicada is not a season-long villain. Cicada is at best, a two-part villain that gets dispatched and handled by the end of the second episode, not a full thing where it's like, oh no, he keeps taking our powers, how do we get around this? Gee, how do we figure this out? Like, you know, by the time we get to the 100th episode, which I think was the mid-season finale, which is past his prologue is the name of the episode, you're like, oh, well, you know, why didn't he breach it to another planet, or to an alternate Earth, or, like, I don't know, anywhere the fuck else, like, instead of breaching it just to, like, low Earth orbit. Like, even if he breached it, like, to fucking, like, you know, the remnants of Krypton, or to, like, fucking, or, like, Krypton, I think Krypton's probably still there at Earth 1 at that point, but, like, if he breached it, like, you know, anywhere the fuck else in deep space, like, it would have worked better. It didn't have to be, like, in the, like, just outside of the Earth's atmosphere. Like, that's a clusterfuck. It's stupid. But, you know, what that is, it's, you know, oh, we need an excuse to keep coming back each week, and then for them to continue having to fight the same villain. And when we look at, like, the show, what's it called? Like, when we look at Hawkeye, which is what we're talking about today, by the time we get to episode 4, it feels like, not that we're redoing the same thing over and over again. It's not like that. It's not like in Jessica Jones, where we get to a point in Jessica Jones where they have Kilgrave captured, and then nothing happens that entire episode, and then Kilgrave escapes at the end, and it's like, all it does is make your characters look incompetent. It doesn't progress the story, because it's like, if I can sit here on my couch and watch and be like, well, here are 10 ways that they could have avoided this happening, like, it's not serving your characters well. It's just not. So, what we have here in this show is, they're not doing that, thankfully. But they are really showing us a bunch of shit we don't need to see. Like, we don't need to see Clint and Kate hanging out, because I think this is Clint's last outing. I think this is the end of Clint as Hawkeye. And like, I don't think he continues on past this point. I don't think the character needs to continue on past this point. So, like, to say that, like, you know, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna see the two of them bonding and all of that, it's like, it's kind of pointless. Like, the only thing in that episode that really, you know, needed to be there, and this is an assumption based on probably where this show is gonna go after this point, and really a hope under, you know, the rule of Chekhov's gun, is the coin flicking thing, where he flicks a coin and it turns off the TV and it hits something else and does something else. And then she learns how to do it too. Like, that's the only thing that's really of importance in this entire episode, because if they showed that and it doesn't come into play, then the entire episode's a wash. Because, like, we don't need to have run out of trick arrows. There is no narrative reason why he needed to have run out of trick arrows. Like, it could have just been, oh, he has more. Like, the costumes, cool, I get it, and that's what they're doing. This is their version of asking the Wakandans to build a suit for Sam. This is, we need to get a new suit. Fuck me. Nope, they're not coming in. Like, we need a new suit for Hawkeye, so, he's got to, we need an excuse to get him the new suit. We need an organization to give him said new suit. And it's like, well, what are we going to do to accomplish this? We're going to bring back the LARPers from the earlier episode. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Why are we even bothering with the fucking LARPers? Like, it doesn't make the LARPers earlier in the season more useful. It still makes that a waste of time and an exercise in, trying my patience as a viewer, where it's like, I don't want to watch Hawkeye fake fight his way through a bunch of assholes who think it's medieval times. I'm sorry, I don't want to see that. I'm not watching a Hawkeye show to watch that. Like, I'm not watching a Hawkeye show to watch Hawkeye watch a musical version of the Avengers. Like, I would have rather they just released a musical version of the Avengers the way they did there, and just put it out. And it was just out, and it could have been, viewed on Disney+. Like, had they done that, I would have been more on board. I wouldn't have watched it. Like, it's cringy, and it's stupid, and it's not something I would have, sat down and watched. But at least I would have had the option to not watch it and not have it sit here and take up fucking 5 to 10 minutes of screen time, dealing with the aftermath of this fucking show. Like, I'm sorry, it's not a necessity. It's not, like, there is very clearly a path for this show to have been a movie. And I think there's even a way that this show could have been edited into a 2.5 hour runtime. Like, you don't need to sit here and stretch it out just to make it into a series. We don't need it to be a series. It's fine. It can be a movie. And it's like, look, I get it. I understand what we're going for, but we don't need it to be a series. I'm sorry. Like, we've introduced plenty of Avengers. Like, we introduced fucking Scarlet Witch as an afterthought in a fucking Avengers movie. Like, we don't need an entire series and stretched out in this way, where it's like, we're just wasting time. Like, literally, like, my life is ending a minute at a time, and you're having me sit here watch movies in Christmas sweaters? Like, come on. Like, I think Hawkeye has had the most humanization of all the Avengers, and I think if anyone needs it, it's not fucking him. And it's like, here's the thing. Let's talk about the two big, question moments from this. Yelena and, we knew Yelena was coming. It's not a surprise that Yelena was coming, because, fucking Black Widow ended with Yelena getting told by, whatever the fuck her name is, Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character, who's Madam Hydra, giving her an iPad that's like, here's your target. Like, if you want revenge for killing your sister, this is who I want you to go kill. And it's a picture of Hawkeye. And it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. But there's a path through this show. And it would have made the show into a movie if Jeremy Renner's not there at all. Because all you had to do was had Kate go to the thing, find the Ronin outfit, and then from there, she's going through as Ronin, and then she needs to learn about Clint going through this, and then making the reverse transformation back to Hawkeye. Then she encounters Yelena, who has now tracked her down based on the fact that she is, acting as Ronin in New York, and then that leads to this same conflict, but it does it in a much cleaner way. That's not making me sit through a fucking Avengers musical. Or making me sit through this fucking, going through the LARPing stuff. Or watching them hang out in an apartment. It's not necessary. It's a waste of time to show all of this. Like, it's not progressing the story. And it's like, I think Yelena I think that Yelena does, and I know that I said this I know that I said this initially, but, like, I think that Yelena could have just handled, could have just handled fighting, what's her name, on her own. Could have just handled fighting Kate on her own, without having to do an extra, having Clint there. But I think for closure, she probably does need, she probably does need a conflict with, a conflict with Clint. Because if she thinks that, Clint, if she thinks that Clint killed her, I think that it's a misservice to the character I don't know, it feels kind of like you could have done it either way, and it would have worked either way, and it's like, do we need to be here? Like, I literally feel like I'm asking these questions, and I'm like, is this necessary? Are we at a point where it's like, why are we doing this story in this way? Like, it doesn't necessarily make sense. It doesn't quite fit into what we need to use this story for. And ultimately, the point of the story is to introduce Yelena into... Like, this show is gonna... Like, there are gonna be two net results of this show. Introducing Kate... Well, three. Introducing Kate Bishop to the world and having her be the new Hawkeye. That's number one. Number two, taking Yelena as we saw her in Black Widow and reintroducing her into this new world and making her part of the broader picture. That's objective number two. And objective number three is establishing a kind of criminal underworld element that's not, purely cosmic villains, which is kind of what the Avengers have been dealing with. Like, they say, oh, we're busting up arms dealers in Age of Ultron, but at the end of the day, it's like, they're not really dealing with that all that often. It's like, Hydra is still a global threat. Like, they need more regional threats and things that'll create stakes on a smaller scale. Like, we don't need, and I think that's kind of, like, Kingpin is a huge threat, don't get me wrong, but that's where we're going with this, is that, we are going to build towards a Wilson Fisk. We're going to build towards other street-level villains who are going to be a longer and overriding threat, and especially with the comments of Kevin Feige this week about Charlie Cox coming back as Daredevil when Daredevil does return, it does seem like, they do have plans for these street-level heroes to do more than just this kind of stuff. And it makes sense, because, look, I understand completely the idea that we need to have a grounding agent, and we need someone who is, there and ready and willing to fight, these big cosmic bad guys like, Black Widow and like Hawkeye and like Sam, who are just people who are doing the right thing. Even Tony is just a person in a suit of armor. If you rip the suit of armor off, you can just stab him like anyone else. Same thing with Rhodey. Like, they're just humans. They may have these things, but they're still putting themselves in harm's way. And I think that, if we take, Black Widow, who doesn't have the suit of armor, who doesn't have the, all of that. Same thing with Hawkeye. The Hawkeye just has trick arrows and stuff like that. I don't think that you necessarily need, you need them on that scale. Because now Captain America isn't a super soldier anymore. He's just a guy who believes in what he believes, and he believes in doing the right thing. And we don't, I think at this point you can kind of dissociate the cosmic level threats from the street level threats and not have to worry about what's what I'm looking for here, feeling like something's missing. You can do kind of a split A-B and do that kind of thing. You don't have to have the Punisher going off to fight like fucking Korvac or anything. He can kind of hang out. You don't need him to hang out and fight the Dark Phoenix. It's, he's content dealing with the criminal underworld. Same thing with Daredevil. I don't need, that's why I think to an extent I didn't really bump into Daredevil not appearing at the end of Endgame. I know some people had a problem, oh, you didn't bring in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or any of that. And it's what the fuck were they gonna do? Honestly, we have enough people here who shouldn't be here for this fight, Hawkeye being one of them. We have enough of these people. You don't need to have, a small platoon of people who shouldn't be there, and then on top of it, you don't necessarily need we don't need Daredevil to fight. We don't need Jessica Jones to fight. Arguably Daredevil should be there at least. You can make a case for Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and Luke Cage, but come on, it is what it is at this point. And then what was the other thing I wanted to address? I don't know. It's like, here's the thing. This could have been done as a movie, and I think it would have been better served as a movie, even if it was just a Disney Plus movie, and it wasn't like a full-fledged like theatrical release. Because you could have still done this on a budget. You could have still done this without worrying about anything like that. But like, I mean, I just don't understand why why it needed to be as long as it is. Like, it could have been you could have done a 4-episode miniseries and been done with it. It doesn't need to be as long as it is. Everything wrong with the show comes down to the fact that it's too long, and 6 episodes is too much time. And now it's like, oh, episode 5 is going to be cool, and it's like, yeah, okay, awesome, like, it's cool that episode's going to be good, but like, what about everything else? And it's like, look, at this point, episode 5 has to be introducing Kingpin. We're at that point now where you have to introduce Kingpin. Otherwise, you're just kind of not doing anything. Like, you can't... And the thing is, too, I know how this is going to work. It's going to be... Kate doesn't want to give up helping Clint, so that Clint's going to go off and try and hunt down Yelena to find out where she is, and find out who she's working for, and all of that, on top of the Tracksuit Mafia doing their thing. And now the show is becoming way too convoluted, unless they start shortchanging some plot lines. Like, what's going on with the Tracksuit Mafia? That's going to become... And that's the thing, too, is you're wasting all this time, and it's like, you could have shown us Echo doing something. You could have done that, because Echo's getting backdoor piloted out of this show. Like, you could, like, that was an option. That was very much an option. You could have shown Echo doing things. And how much would it suck if you were the person who was like, oh, I'm working on the Echo show. I don't think they've announced, like, showrunners or anything yet. But, like, oh, Echo is coming. And it's like, by the way, we announced Echo to put that out there. But it's not. It's Daredevil Season 4. Which I think is a valid possibility to come out of this show. And I think that, like, when they do Echo, that's kind of what the announcement was for, is that it's like, No Way Home is going to reintroduce Matt Murdock, and then he's going to be an active player in Echo. And I think that's where this is going. I think it's a cool idea, but, if we got to sit through a fucking Hawkeye show to get there, like, is it worth it? Like... And the thing is, too, it's cool. I like the aesthetic of the ground level, nonsense. I love the way it looks and the way it feels and all of that. But it's just, you're taking too long to get to the point of the show. And there is world you can build that's not Clint and Kate sitting around watching movies. Because, that episode was 35 minutes and it was still too fucking long. Like, I'm sorry. There's so much fat that could be cut from this that it's kind of insulting that they didn't. So, yeah, so we'll wrap up there for today. Hawkeye's available for those of you who aren't watching along on Disney Plus if you want to watch along. It's up to episode 4 now, with a new episode coming next Wednesday, and then another episode coming the Wednesday after that, leading up to, leading up to Christmas, I believe. Or the week before Christmas is the last episode, and then there's the Legends thing. It'll be interesting to see if they do a Legends for, what's that called? Spider-Man. Which I think is a possibility they don't. Because it's not a Marvel production. But that's the one I'm most interested to see a Legends for. It's like, or a behind the studio, or whatever the hell they call it. Like, Masterworks. I'm just making words up now to try and, explain what this thing is called. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, we will wrap up there for today. I will catch up on Wheel of Time. I have been busy. I will catch up on Wheel of Time. And what was the other one? We have War, which is a Netflix series I'm going to marathon probably tonight. If not tonight, I will be, watching it in the near future after that. Also, there is The Flash, Part 4 of Armageddon. I'll be watching. That'll definitely be watching tonight, so maybe tomorrow I'll end up watching War. Being the Ricardos and West Side Story. So, a lot of fun things coming up this week. And next week, I'm going to an advanced screening of Nightmare Alley, the new movie from Guillermo del Toro about it's an old what's it called? old noir movie that got remade in 1946. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun time. So, we'll be back with that. And until then, have a great rest of your week.